The Central Valley's population is expected to swell within the next several decades. According to new data provided by the California Department of Finance, the valley's population is projected to grow by about 5 million people by 2060.
Many of them have found that rather than saying having an expensive apartment in the Bay Area or a house with a postage stamp for a yard, they could move up the Interstate 80 corridor and come up to Sacramento in the region or the foothills and get a more affordable place to live or a larger place to live.
Department of Finance spokesman H.G. Palmer says affordability is one of the main drivers expected to shift people from coastal and urban areas into the valley. Long term, he noted, declining birth rates will have an impact on places that currently have bigger populations, with more people either waiting to have kids or deciding to not have them at all. The population shift will have impacts in our area. Specifically, Sacramento County is expected to expand by more than 250,000 people. San Joaquin County also set to see growth, going from an estimated population right now of 788,000 people to just under 1 million by 2060. State leaders are bracing for the biggest exodus in Los Angeles County, which is projected to lose 1.7 million of its more than 10 million person population. But those people aren't necessarily moving out of state, but to nearby counties in the South Central Valley, including Kern, which is represented by Republican Assemblyman Vince Fong.
We're excited about the opportunities. I think people are discovering what the Central Valley is all about. We're seeing that growth right now.
The population shift, a push for state leaders to work harder to balance affordability statewide and to properly plan.
And that's one of the things that we know we need to continue to do as a state. That's why the governor and the administration have been so forceful about trying to move forward on more housing affordability and availability.
And the Department of Finance and the governor have to look in the mirror. As these things happen, as people vote with their feet and move out of more expensive regions and into more affordable regions, we need to prioritize the needs of the Central Valley. A lot of times when we have debates in the legislature, a lot of those debates are driven by large urban centers. But now, as the Central Valley begins to grow in stature, and they're finding out what we already love about the Central Valley, I think we're going to have to prioritize the needs of the Central Valley as well.
And while the population distribution will change within the state, experts project California's population by 2060 will remain pretty much the same as it is now, at about 40 million people. In Sacramento, Ashley Zavala, KCRA 3 News.
Well, the new data with these projections are primarily meant to help local governments plan for the future.